Plastic bottles. Almost everything comes in plastic bottles. Our drinks, just like sodas, juices, and even our water, comes in plastic bottles. Just imagine the fact that our water used to come from natural sources, and now it has to be processed and cleansed before we can actually drink it. What if the same thing happens to our air? Imagine a future wherein the air becomes so unclean, so unbearable to the point that we have to cleanse it before we can actually breathe it. Imagine a future wherein it has to be bottled and delivered to our homes for a certain price. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Pay-to-Breathe, Pay-to-Live future awaiting us.
Oxygen cycle. The registration of oxygen is found on Earth crust, which are mostly bounded in mineral compounds and is unpredictable. Photosynthesis is a process by plants through the absorption of carbon dioxide, light, and water to create oxygen out of carbon dioxide. It has been a major contributor to the oxygen cycle. The oxygen and carbon cycles are hence intertwined. If plants are no longer able to produce enough oxygen to stop the atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations from rising as a result of increased release of carbon dioxide through emissions, which has altered the carbon cycle. The oxygen cycle describes how oxygen travels through the Earth atmosphere, which is air, biosphere, plants and animals, and lithosphere, the outermost layer of the atmosphere. The oxygen cycle illustrates both how free oxygen is made accessible and exploited in each of these areas.
The human population, especially with our continuous growth, reduces the amount and creation of oxygen in our planet. Us humans are directly involved in the oxygen cycle since we are constantly consuming oxygen and releasing carbon dioxide. However, our actions are what mainly affects this cycle. Since our population is continuously growing, there are more needs that need to be met, which means we need to use more resources from our environment. By chopping down forests for our own use, we are reducing the creation of oxygen since plants are the main sources of oxygen through the process of photosynthesis. Other notable acts that humans are responsible for are the combustion of engines that require oxygen to burn fuel, man-made fires, and the industrial impact that dilutes atmospheric oxygen by emitting gases such as carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. These acts show how the human actions are disturbing the natural cycle.
Littering is another common human activity that contributes significantly to air pollution. Food wrappers and plastic bottles are the most often recognized single-use plastic in our daily lives. It is considerably better for the environment to reuse plastic water bottles rather than trash them. Littering of cigarette butts, which may take up to 10 years to disintegrate and are very harmful to the environment and can affect our oxygen cycle. Lastly, a poor urban planning which leads to suburban growth and the significant dependence on vehicles is a direct cause of air pollution. Vehicle emission from trucks, jeeps, trains, and planes are a significant source of pollution. Going on a stroll, riding a bike, or using of public transit is a more sustainable and environmental friendly means of transportation.
Plants are one of the major producers of oxygen in the planet. Approximately one-third or 28% of oxygen are produced by plants on land. And the other percentage is produced by other organisms. And since more organisms are dependent to the oxygen, the production of oxygen is really essential to keep everyone alive.
This has been the natural cycle for as long as we know. However, this has been disrupted by invasive species that almost every corner of the planet has these species. And these are humans. The human activities negatively affect the planet and the cycle. Some examples of human activities are deforestation, depletion of plants and trees, surplus of carbon dioxide emission, transformation of forests or flatland into farmland, and so on, that even destroys the environment that the animals and plants live on due to human activities. So this will also affect the oxygen cycle where there is much more carbon dioxide compared to oxygen instead of a balanced one. We can almost say that humans have control to the oxygen cycle on almost the entire Earth. That's why we should take responsibility of the choices that we will make, as this will have impact to environment, animals, and Earth.
In addition to that, not only humans disrupt the oxygen cycle, but other organisms too. The introduction of foreign species to an environment leads to invasion. In fact, plants themselves can also affect the oxygen cycle by altering the interaction between the organisms in the ecosystem, the same way as introducing new animals in an ecosystem.
Epigenetics investigates how your behavior and environment can affect your genes' work, while epigenetic modifications can modify how your body interprets a DNA sequence. They are not reversible and do not change your DNA sequence as genetic changes do. Numerous minute substances in cells can activate or deactivate genes via epigenetics. An epigenetic marker is a substance that modifies the expression of the genome to control gene activity. Hesperidine and other histone modifications can have an impact on epigenetic markers as well. The epigenome may be influenced by a person's nutrition, exposure to pollutants, and usage of medications, among other things. Epigenetics changes may be passed down from generation to generation as cells divide. Studying epigenetics is essential because it improves our understanding of how our activities affect how our cells and bodies work. Cancer, tumors, for instance, can be brought on by epigenetic alteration.
This future is the pay-to-breathe, pay-to-live future that awaits us. But it's not inevitable. As humans who have controlled and determined our own futures for the last 3,000 years, we are the master of our fate and the captain of our souls. We can change directions. We can control and change our futures. So, with every chance you get, cherish the air that you breathe and love the environment that makes it all possible.